This is Noah Gray, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, and you are listening to the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome into the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Bradley Stalder, and tonight I'll be reviewing some projections for the Buffalo Bills. That's right, the overtime losers, unfortunately, to one of the greatest playoff games we've ever seen. Josh Allen really regrets losing that coin flip, but here we are. Bills are back at it, and they've added some real key pieces on defense, including Von Miller. So I'm excited to see what kind of offense the Bills are going to be running this year. So Josh Allen, 402 quarterback points last season. I have him projected right now for 406, but that's assuming playing all 17 games, almost all of the games. And Josh Allen's proven that he's pretty durable. He's a big-bodied quarterback. He might be rushing close to the goal line, but this is the type of quarterback that is usually pretty durable. He's strong, he's big, and he doesn't take unnecessary hits. Josh Allen's pretty smart quarterback. I have him projected for 62% completion percentage, which is about his career average, but lower than 2020 when he rose up to about 68% completion percentage. I have Josh Allen at 34 passing touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and a 25% rush share rate. That was his median rush share rate last season. And the projection leads to 112 rush attempts and about, I don't know why it's not, 5 yards per carry, 617 rush yards, 8 rushing scores. That gives you about 406 quarterback points. Now, the difficult part I found with the Buffalo Bills projecting wise was their backfield, because right now Zach Moss is still on team, and Zach Moss can't be ignored completely. Yes, he was inactive for some of the games, but he was active in others and got a 29% rush share in the median rush share of the games that he played. So if he does that, that's 130 rushes. I don't think that he'll get 130 rushes. I don't even think he makes the team, but the team projections right now are about 130 rush attempts for Zach Moss. And same thing with Duke Johnson. I'm not sure if the Buffalo Bills keep Duke Johnson around or get him involved very much at all. But last season, Duke Johnson averaged 44% of the rushes in the games he played for the Miami Dolphins and overtook Myles Gaskin oftentimes in the games that he played. So Duke Johnson still has some juice, and if he gets significant run, I think that it's going to be a 2 running backfield. It's going to be Singletary. We know it's going to be Devin Singletary. And James Cook was one of the more difficult running backs to project, because I love James Cook in the second round. That they took him as a rookie, and the Buffalo Bills prioritized pass catching back. But let's say Duke Johnson gets about a 5% rush share, and James Cook gets 7 or 8% rush share. Like, we're talking 30, 40 carries. I don't know. Maybe he gets 2 or 3 carries a game. But I have James Cook projected for the most targets among all of the running backs at 7% share, 32 receptions, 253 receiving yards, and just about 2 touchdowns for James Cook. So James Cook, I have it about 70 fantasy points in half PPR. And last season, 70 fantasy points in half PPR for the running back position would not be very much. Frankly, we're talking outside the top 50. Whereas Devin Singletary, I have projected for 133, and that would put him at running back 30. And while you may say James Cook might get some run, Zach Moss might get some run if you combine Zach Moss and James Cook projections and Duke Johnson and all that, they're going to be up there, both running back 30s. This is a backfield that I'm still not confident drafting pieces of except maybe in best ball. In redraft, it's going to be hard for me to say I'm comfortable having Devin Singletary as my running back 2, or I'm comfortable having James Cook as my running back 2, or putting him as my flex play. I don't see that being a level of comfort that I have given these projections. Singletary's median target share last season was only 4%. So I'm not confident that he's going to be used in the pass game significantly, and didn't have a very high catch percentage. Touchdown rates really low catching the ball. So while Devin Singletary, I do have projected for 186 rush attempts and 875 rush yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, less than 1 through the air. I'm not super optimistic about Singletary's projection. Now, a player that I am optimistic about in the Buffalo Bills is wide receiver Stefon Diggs. I think this is a bounce back year for Stefon Diggs. He didn't have a bad season. He finished as the wide receiver 7 in total points at 234. But I have Diggs now projected for 238. And that would have still put him at wide receiver 7. So I do think he gets better among all the wide receivers. I have him down on touchdowns, but up in receiving yards and receptions. So I've projected Stefon Diggs 26% target share, 107 receptions, 173 targets, 8 receiving touchdowns, 238 fantasy points. Unfortunately, the projections do not fall out favorably for Gabriel Davis. I have Davis at a 13% target share. He was barely at a 10% target share, and his median target share last season was in the single digits. So let's not get carried away. He had an awesome game in the playoffs, and he does have the welcome mat. There are a lot of narratives that are surrounding Gabriel Davis that support him taking a step forward. He played well when Emmanuel Sanders was not in the lineup, or Cole Beasley was not in the lineup. He played well against a Kansas City defense that was hurting in the playoffs. They lost the Honey Badger, and that's why the Chiefs defensive backs were all confused. So a 13% target share, while it feels conservative, it's also, I have a 10.4% touchdown rate still. Gabriel Davis, 45 receptions, 85 targets, 7.5, almost 8 receiving touchdowns, 718 receiving yards. That's good for 139 fantasy points. That would put him at wide receiver 37 last season. I don't feel great about that. But the numbers don't look good either. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. His ADP, I saw Gabriel Davis go off as the 37th best player off of a few boards. He's going ahead of DK Metcalf. He's going ahead of Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman, players who have more secure roles. They're the wide receiver 1s on their team, even if it's a really great team with the Buffalo Bills. There is a floor with Gabriel Davis. He has a 53% catch rate. If he doesn't come down with the ball, it's a big problem. Now, he's a touchdown maker. We've seen that his first 2 seasons in the NFL. And looking at his yards per route run, it seems like the range at which his yards per route run, he finished 13th last season in yards per route run. In the top 12, 7 of the top 12 were all top 7 in fantasy points per game in 2021. So Gabriel Davis has a lot of good things going for him, and the welcome mat is out. Emmanuel Sanders is not in the lineup, and looks like Gabriel Davis is going to be the wide receiver 2. I feel that this is too low of a projection, but I'm scared to move him up more and take away from other places. It's hard for me to look at other places in this lineup and say, you know what? I need to take a target share from here. I need to take a target share from there and give it to Gabriel Davis. Because I only have 4% targets given to Isaiah McKenzie, 27 total on the season. Jamison Crowder, I do have at a 16% target share, but that's like a career low since 2016, 2017. Crowder had commanded 26% target share each of the last 2 seasons with the Jets before being injured last year. So 67 receptions, 108 targets out of the slot. That's about what Cole Beasley was doing last year, or over the last 3 seasons, I should say. Only 4 touchdowns for Jamison Crowder, 744 yards. So I think that because of the targets and the target rate, he does slightly bump out Crowder. Crowder does bump out Gabriel Davis for yards, but Davis still has more points due to the touchdowns. And I have Crowder projected for 133 points. And 133 would put him closer to wide receiver 38, 39. So still a bit behind a Gabriel Davis, but not too. Yeah, that's where I think Stefon Diggs, he's pretty clearly a top 7 wide receiver. Gabriel Davis, Jamison Crowder in the 30s. But if Crowder gets hurt, it's probably going to be Khalil Shakir. I have Shakir at a 5% rate, Isaiah McKenzie at 4%. So those two maybe I need to pull from a little bit, but 16% in the slot, Jamison Crowder, that's going to be hard. Crowder has struggled to stay healthy, so I wonder if I adjust for injuries that Crowder's numbers go down and Gabriel Davis's may tend to go up. Although looking at the rest of the lineup, Dawson Knox, you got to give him 11% of the share. OJ Howard, I gave 3%. And then the rest of the tight ends, I gave 1.5%. Kumaro, I gave 1%. Tavon Austin, I gave 1.5%. But it's that sprinkling, it's the other players that you have to include. So I think Gabriel Davis, that's the one I'm really struggling with because the projections are not meeting the ADPs or rankings. And I can see why people are optimistic and I can understand the narratives. It's just hard when you look at the numbers and you say, how much more can I give Gabriel Davis realistically? Okay, so the last piece, as I mentioned, Dawson Knox getting 11% of the target share. I have Knox projected for 44 receptions, 529 receiving yards, 107 fantasy points. That is tight end 17 range. And I've always been low on Dawson Knox. I think it's the target share that's getting to me, but his median target share last season was 11%. And I mean, he could take a step forward, but would he get 1 or 2% of what I projected for OJ Howard? I think that's hard to say. So even if you give all of OJ Howard's points to Dawson Knox, like using the loosey-goosey math, if you give all of the tight end points to Dawson Knox, we're talking about 140 fantasy points, still only tight end 8 last season. And that's where Dawson Knox was. I think it was a spike season for Knox. It feels like the Robert Tonyan type of season from 2020. Buyer beware on Dawson Knox. His projection as well is falling far below where I had him ranked. And right now, Dawson Knox is going in like that first 10 of tight ends. So I think that there are reasons for skepticism among 2 of the players in Buffalo, that being Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox. I'm not sure if they can be counted on week to week. Now, if you want to take shots on them in best ball, I think that that's great. They've got spike week potential. Dawson Knox caught 2 touchdowns in a game last season. Gabriel Davis caught 4 in the playoff game against Kansas City. So there are upside plays here in this Buffalo offense. But I think if you are in redraft week to week, it's going to be difficult to put Devin Singletary in your lineup. It's going to be difficult to put James Cook in your lineup. Difficult to put Gabe Davis or Dawson Knox. I think the safest player that's not Stefon Diggs or Josh Allen is Jamison Crowder. If Jamison Crowder is healthy, he's going to get targets out of the slot. We've seen that from Josh Allen over the last 3 seasons. So that's my takeaways from the Buffalo Bills. They're still in great position to smash. Josh Allen, rightly taken as the quarterback 1 overall. I have him projected to outscore his 2021 season if he plays all 17 games. So this is a wheels up for Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs. I think it's pretty comfortably Allen and Diggs. And then if you want to take some spike weeks, among the rest of the Buffalo players, you go for it. I'm not going to hold you back from drafting Buffalo Bills. Who am I to do that? But I think Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox are better best ball plays than they are in redraft or places where you need to set your lineup. All right, that'll do it for tonight's podcast. Thanks everyone for listening. If you haven't subscribed to the Best Ball Fantasy podcast, make sure you do by clicking on the red button on YouTube, and then also checking out iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Listen to the audio version there. Love the 5-star reviews. If you can do that, that would be awesome. Of course, check out www.bestbellfantasy.com. I'll be updating these projections. I'll find a way to get the projections that I'm doing posted to the website so you can check those out for free. And then, of course, I'll be doing more live drafts and projection reviews and other projects throughout the off season. Baby Stalder is coming very soon, so I do apologize for my inconsistent posting, but that's the reality of fatherhood and the reality of life. So thank you so much, everybody. And in the meantime, good luck in the best ball streets.